Hello and welcome back to the Rock and Roll Show. I'm Adam Gaston. Today we have an interview lined up, our first of season 3, where we sit down with Northern Irish-born Zimbabwe international rugby player Bruce Houston, who recently helped Zimbabwe qualify for the Rugby World Cup by winning the Rugby Africa Cup in Uganda. Bruce walks us through his rugby journey, which has taken him from his beloved Ulster Rugby to Scotland, England and now France, where he plies his trade for 3rd Division side Bourg-en-Bresse. Bruce's journey has not been without pitfalls. He has had difficult moments and he has had great successes. He walks us through his mentality when it comes to the game and how that's developed throughout the years. And he also talks about his special relationship with his family and how that has spurred him on in his career. So sit back, relax and enjoy this very interesting interview with Bruce Houston. All right, Bruce, thanks for joining us on the Rock and Roll Show today. Obviously, a whirlwind couple of weeks for you. Zimbabwe international rugby players just qualified for the Rugby World Cup in 2027. You're settling down in France at the minute. How are things going for you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, all good, all good. Thanks, Adam. No, delighted to be here, firstly. But yeah, no, I mean it's quite nice. Nice to just be out here in the sun in France. I think it's about 27 degrees at the minute. So yeah, I mean it might be warmer with you out in Greece, but yeah, how good.
Yeah, it's a wee bit warmer. Yeah, it's probably in around 30. That's probably why I'm trying to keep in the shade, to be fair, and doing as much podcast and stuff as possible. That's probably one of the reasons, to be fair.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, well, we'll start just in with your obviously you've moved to a new club, Bourg-en-Bresse. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Bourg-en-Bresse. Yeah,
Bourg-en-Bresse. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, they've got a couple of different names. It's Union
yeah,
Sportif Bressons.
yeah.
Yeah,
The best one is always just
it's
Borg.
confusing me a wee bit.
Borg is the easiest way to just pronounce it, I think. So
Borg Yeah, I should know that. I mean, my last name is Gaston, as you know, but yeah, that's all right. Well, we'll start into obviously we'll start into your start of your rugby career, I suppose,
mm,
in Randallstown. You're from Randallstown, County Antrim, Northern Ireland.
yep.
Uh, what was the big draw for you for playing rugby from a young age?
Yeah, to be honest, like I don't know if there actually was a draw for me to go into rugby. So basically, how it happened was my grandfather, he was big into his rugby, and that obviously transferred down into my mum. Like she just loved watching it, whatever. And then one day she's turned around to me. She was like, "Right, well, we go down to the local club, and you can maybe jump in." And I was like, "Right, okay, yeah, we'll see." I wasn't really that bothered, and I was standing on the side of the pitch and watching these boys train, whatever, and yeah, they turned around like, do you want to come in? Do you want to play? And
Yeah,
I was like, no, I was just too scared. I didn't want to do it, and then just felt this like thump, or not thump, but like a big old like push in my back, and I was like, what was that? And it was my mum. She was just like, she literally chucked me onto the pitch, like go 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 go, like shooing me on.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, honestly that is my earliest rugby memory. Yeah, pretty wild start, but obviously quite thankful for mum doing that right now. So yeah,
Yeah. Quite literally pushed into rugby. Yeah,
literally.
yeah. You speak your granddad sort of reading up on a couple of things and stuff like that. How
Mm.
he was a big inspiration for you. He had sort of played in and around sort of like in New Zealand and stuff like
hmm
that. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Yeah. So he played out in New Zealand. He kind of went a little bit everywhere. But I know that he played for the Ulster Juniors, which is like the club equivalent to. I don't really know what the equivalent is to that. I suppose it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like the
Yeah. Oh,
Ulster
yeah. My
Junior.
dad played for Ulster Juniors. I think it
Oh,
was
did
like
he?
yeah, it was maybe it might have been the under 19s at that time,
I'm not sure.
under 18, something like that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I think the Ulster Juniors is like it's like the club version. So it's like if you're playing for a club and say you're like 25 like me, say you're doing well, then I think you can actually go and play for Ulster after that. But anyway, so I know that he played Ulster Juniors whilst he was at Coleraine. He was captain of Coleraine, and after. I don't know if it was after or before, but he then went out to New Zealand. As you say, he was playing for Waikato out there,
Mm.
which is probably about, I think that's the equivalent of the Chiefs nowadays.
Yeah, I
So
think so. Yeah,
he, yeah,
that
he
sort of
did
region.
yeah, he did pretty well out there. and then him and his wife, my granny, decided to head out to Zimbabwe. Absolutely, I don't really know why they did it. I think it was to do with like farming and stuff. Where they had like a good, I don't know, maybe good job lined up, whatever. So they lived out there for 5 years or so. 5 years, and then during that time they gave birth to obviously my mum, and then my uncle as well. So yeah, pretty wild. And then obviously that's how
Yeah.
we
It's
stuff
an
came
interesting
about.
journey, that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely wild, but no, it was good. I'm very very thankful for Papa, because I think without Papa I probably wouldn't have firstly got into rugby, and then secondly actually kept the motivation to keep playing rugby. So yeah, he's someone who's very very important to me. So.
Was there like a moment where it sort of like clicked with you, where you're like, right, this is I really enjoy this now. This is what I want to do with my career.
I think so. Yeah, like after literally being pushed onto the pitch, like I think I kind of went and I started doing a few more training sessions, a few more, yeah, I don't know, playing a couple more games for Randallstown as well in the junior section. And now I don't have this anymore at all, but I think I used to be quite fast. And I would kind of like, if you could imagine like rugby as a junior kid, you'd like get the ball on say like a right touchline, and then you do like the perfect U backwards, like round to the
Yeah,
other
like just run
touchline
right
and run
across the.
away from everyone. And usually my
Hmm.
speed was able to get me away from everyone,
Yeah.
but yeah, I suppose like that feeling of like scoring tries and stuff. I think that was a bit of a hook. And then kind of after Randallstown going into Ballymena Academy, I think like the competition as well. So like before I joined Ballymena Academy, my parents were like, "Look, Bruce, maybe keep the expectations a bit lower. You know, loads of kids are playing here, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." But there's something inside me that just loved that like competition. I was like, right, this is class. I'm going to make sure that I want to be playing in the first team, whatever, blah blah. So yeah, I suppose it's probably those two things, probably the bit that spurred me
Yeah.
on. So yeah,
Well, that's the big thing, I suppose. If you have that competitive drive, then that's going to take you a long way. And you
yeah,
sort of talk about moving into Ballymena Academy. Obviously, for any viewers that don't know, Ballymena Academy is school in sort of the centre of Northern Ireland.
yeah.
Obviously, our podcast is based in Cardiff, I suppose, first of all, so not everybody will know Ballymena
No,
Academy. But yeah, Ballymena Academy, moving in there, you won the medallion plates, didn't you? In your fourth year at the school, wasn't it?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. We
and
that's
then
geez,
you.
I completely forgot about that for play. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do my research, Bruce. I do my research, and then you move straight into the first 15 of Ballymena Academy. Obviously, Ballymena Academy, one of the better rugby schools of in Northern Ireland. My dad, who goes to Cambridge House, he's probably tutting in the background right now. But anyway, uh, yeah, there's a bit of the rivalry there in Ballymena.
Yeah,
But sort of during that period, playing for Ballymena Academy, and then at the age of 16, wasn't it? Moving into the Ireland under-18s, and that was like a year earlier than what you would have normally
yeah,
gone into for. How did that period sort of help you develop as a rugby player, but as a person as well, sort of as a young man?
yeah, yeah. It was huge. Like I mean, I never ever expected the Ireland 18 stuff, because I think when I was 16, I played Ireland 18s a year young, and I had just kind of scraped through, not scraped, well, I'd kind of got through the kind of the Ulster under 16, under 17s, whatever, and I don't think I was a standout, but yeah, I'm not really too sure what happened. My friend Mark Thompson he was invited to like a training camp, I think at Christmas, and I remember hearing about that, and I was like, oh, I really wish that I could have got that opportunity, and I didn't. So I don't know. It wasn't in the back of my head, maybe a tiny bit, but like not a whole lot. So yeah, that kind of, I don't think I'll ever forget. John Andrews, the head coach at the time, like just coming up to me privately in the library, and he was like, "Just take a look at this email." And I was like, "What's this?" And I was just like scrolling down, and it said like Ireland under 18 squad announcement. And it said like out halves, and then it said me, and I was like, "Is this a mistake? Like, are you winding me up?" And he was like, "No, no, no, I'm being serious." And I was like, "Wow, right, okay." So yeah, that. But
Yeah.
yeah, the whole experience of that, and I think probably the confidence that it gave me it was massive. I mean, yeah, I think I probably got my fair share of stick like after it all happened. Like I'm sure you know what it's like if someone is like playing to an okay standard at school, it's like, oh, do you know he plays for Ireland and all this? So it was just
Yeah,
like
all the
constant.
crack, like, yeah.
But it was funny. It was funny, and it was good because I think it made me grow up like a lot more. Like, um, yeah, I don't know. It's probably like back then I wouldn't really have thought too much about it and still kind of clowning about whatever. Me and Harry back in those days probably clowned about together. But
Yeah, I'm sure he was the one who could probably give you the most stick, to be fair.
yeah, oh, and
Yeah,
he absolutely was.
yeah.
But
Harry's
yeah,
my cousin, just for anyone that doesn't know. That's my
yes,
cousin.
yeah.
He's good friends with
Good,
Bruce.
good old Harry
Yeah,
Gaston.
that's
But
it.
yeah, no, it was good. It definitely made me grow up and made me kind of realize that. I think it's probably the realization as well that like, okay, right. I think I've kind of established that I'm okay at rugby, so I
Mm,
might be able to try and make a career out of it. Well, for as long as I could. So yeah.
yeah. I will. It certainly seems like in your like from when you started rugby up until that point, it was sort of like you sort of just you didn't really think too much about it. You just sort of played it for the love of the
Mm.
game because you enjoyed that sort of competitive, and it's sort of that sort of stood you in good stead. Would you say that was sort of like the I guess like not thinking about it too much and just like going and just training and that sort of stood you? Would you say that was the key in the
Yeah,
early days?
100%, 100%. Like my whole focus from the start was just because I love playing it. And then yeah, I suppose it's funny because like as you get older and as you start going through like and playing potentially higher level, sometimes that focus can go away. And I think you see so many young rugby players, especially at the moment, like they play it because they love it first, but then as they get into more serious environments, um, suddenly the enjoyment begins to like go a little bit, and then they're all in their head about it, and whatever. And I was, I was guilty of that as well. So yeah, I suppose it's just the love of it first. So yeah, and then obviously the competitiveness is something that I loved as well. Unfortunately, that didn't transfer into my education, but yeah.
Oh, oh well, that being GCSE French, as you were telling me before the
uh,
podcast, will hopefully help you out a wee bit more moving to
yeah.
France. Oh, that's great. And then you made two semi-finals of schools cups, and then moving into the sort of Ireland Ireland under-19s, and then the
Mm.
Ulster Rugby Academy. How was that sort of experience for you? In that sort of period immediately after school and playing for teams like Ballymena, Banbridge, or playing the All Ireland League.
Yeah, it was a bit different. I mean, it was. I think the first thing is that it was organized like so well for me. So I remember sitting down with the academy coach at the time, and he was like, "Right, here it is. Here's your timeline. Here's the exact games that you're going to play all year. These are the weeks you're going to have it off. These are the weeks you're in like Ireland camps, whatever." So I was like, "Right, this is unbelievable. This is really good." So help me kind of organize myself and get the opportunity for maybe stuff outside rugby right as well. So
Mm.
so that was good for a start, but I suppose for me and the rugby, it could also be quite challenging just because it was very busy and very very full on like a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
I would imagine that not much probably changed within the kind of the Irish setup, in the you're either like you could be going down to Dublin on like a on like a let's say like a Tuesday morning, and then on the I don't know maybe like you spend 2 days down there. You're expected to be back up Thursday evening to go train like club training, and then go play AIL on Saturday. It was really really intense,
Yeah.
and it was tough. It was demanding, but unfortunately, if you're keen to make it, these are the things you've got to do. So,
Yeah.
I
Well,
suppose,
I'm sure like that probably that just like that exposure into that sort of like fast-paced, intense regime probably has sort of helped you in terms of building probably habits going forward. Would you say that
yeah,
that was the thing?
yeah, 100%. Like, I suppose for me, it was probably like punctuality as well. Like, that was huge. Like, if you, I always remember speaking to an Ulster senior member. at the time when I first joined, and I just said like, "Oh, are some guys late?" And he just like looked at me. He was like, "No, no one's late." I was like, oh, right, okay, please. Whereas back in like Ulster underage, like you get the odd straggler coming in like a couple minutes late, whatever. So that was like probably the first thing. But then yeah, I suppose like just your organisation yourself as well. Like so like something that I do now is making sure I'm always meal prep for the week. Little things like that just takes away so much like stress through the kind of through the week. So yeah, I suppose just getting yourself organised probably the biggest thing I learned from that.
Yeah, and then you sort of talk about that sort of all that hard work, sort of playing those games for Ulster A or Ulster 15,
Mm.
keep sort of training with the Ulster Academy, and then you make was it a friendly debut in November 2019, wasn't it?
Uh,
At home, yeah,
Uruguay,
Uruguay, yeah, there we
yeah,
go, yeah,
yeah.
and
So
that was with if, excuse me if I'm incorrect here. That was with was that with Stuart Moore? Was it? Did he also play in that
did
game?
he
Was it?
play? Yes, he did. He played 13 that game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How was it playing with sort of like a friend from school as well, like moving in, sort of making that game together with you,
Yeah,
with it being
yeah,
your, I suppose, your debut.
yeah. That was unreal because I think firstly, Stuart and I have been friends for a long time. We've been friends before even he joined Ballymena Academy, and our families were quite close as well. So that was probably quite a nice moment for us. I mean, we probably didn't really think about it too much at the time because we were probably just like, all right, we're just kind of playing another game together. And it was a bit different too because I was playing fullback that game, and he was playing 13. Now he's obviously usually 13. Maybe not anymore. But yeah, so it was kind of like he was passing me the ball rather than like me passing him the ball. So that
Yeah,
was kind of a little bit weird. But no, it was good. It was really good, and I think we just kind of did what we usually do, just kind of have a laugh about it, and like not try and take it as serious as it was. Because I think probably when I reflected on it, kind of like years down the line, it's kind of like, right, okay, I was playing a Rugby World Cup team there. Like that was a
yeah.
little bit bigger than what I thought at the time. So
And you
yeah,
see what
but
they've gone on to do as well, like that Uruguay team. They're a good
yeah,
side now. Yeah,
100%. So
yeah.
it was cool. It was cool. Yeah, really good experience, and obviously lovely to play alongside someone I know relatively well. So
Aye. Well, you usually would have played 10 and 12 together, wouldn't you, in school, if I remember?
yeah, yeah,
That would have been quite the key partnership in the team, I remember it
yeah,
being.
yeah,
And then you move into, that's obviously a friendly, but then you make your sort of professional competitive debut, and you make that down at the RDS in January 2019 against Leinster.
yeah.
How was that experience for you, playing for I guess, the club you grew up supporting, I suppose, and, as they Ulster Rugby.
Yeah, like honestly, I still to this day I'm so grateful for it because like it was probably the best experience of my life just because of like the nature of it. Like, I was so young. Like I was 19 making my professional debut against the best team within the whole league. And then I think I looked back as well, and I'd seen some of the players I was playing against. I was playing against like Andrew Porter, like Ross Byrne, like these guys who are like well established,
It's a
Irish
British and Irish lion
internationals,
right there, yeah.
like crazy. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that was pretty wild. But no, the experience was unbelievable. If I'm being like completely honest with myself, like I'm not sure at that age I was fully ready for it. I was thrown in, but I wouldn't have changed that. I wouldn't have changed. Just being chucked in there and kind of go all in for it. So yeah, but it was great. Like I don't think I'll ever forget the kind of as you ran out. So it was like you'd run out from the tunnels and they'd have like the flames coming up. And it would be like it was Kanye West, like all the lights playing as well.
Oh, that's a
And
good
it was just
song.
like a
Yeah,
whole
good
like
song.
light system around the stadium. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Different level. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, mental.
Yeah. That's great. And then you spent a couple of years at Ulster from sort of 2018 to 2021, and then being released by Ulster in 2021.
Mm.
Um, that was probably from certainly an outsider looking into your career. That was probably the first sort of, I'd say, that looked like a really tough
Mm-hmm.
professional um, period for you. You
Yeah,
know, leaving I guess your home club. How did
yeah.
you sort of deal with that as a young professional?
Yeah, it was really difficult. If I'm being completely honest with myself, I think I knew it was coming because initially when I came out of school, I signed a 3 year academy contract, and it was like the summer after my second year, and I got a call from my agent, and he was like, "Look, just to let you know, like Ulster have cut your contract short by 6 months, and they'll make a decision on you at Christmas." And I was like, "Oh shit! Like this is not good. Like this is not looking good for me." But yeah, basically after that, it was after I kind of got over that bit, and I was like, right, I've got nothing to lose now. I actually felt like I started playing some really good rugby. Like we had a sevens competition. I've never played sevens before, but I actually felt like I was playing quite well in that tournament. And I remember it was tough because I was kind of given a couple of false promises after that tournament, and a couple of coaches come up to me and be like, "Oh, well, the director was just watching you there. Like he was really, really impressed." And I was like, "Okay, like does this mean that I'm being kept on?" And then I hear nothing like from anyone, and I was like, "Okay." And then I just kind of got like a call from someone maybe like a week or 2 weeks before my contract was supposed to finish, and they're like, "Yeah, look, it's not happening." So I was like, "Oh, right, okay." So that was tough. But then I suppose that kind of period afterward, that was probably the most challenging bit. So like I would kind of go and it was actually me myself. So like I was like, right, I'm going to be proactive because my agent at the time wasn't doing a whole lot for me. So I was like, right, I'm going to be proactive. I would go and I would go on LinkedIn. I would find like all the MLR teams. I would find all like the Italian coaches, all the French coaches, and I would email every single one of them, and I'd email every single team manager as well. I didn't really hear that much back, which I expected. And then I thought, right, well, I'm Scottish qualified as well. I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to go and reach out to some Scottish teams. So I did that, and thankfully got some responses for that. I spoke quite heavily with Ayrshire Bulls, who'd be quite prominent now within the Scottish Premiership, and Heriots. And ultimately, I decided to go for Heriots because they were city centre Edinburgh, and thought, I'm still a young guy, like, may as well make the most of Edinburgh
You want to
too.
enjoy, yeah, yeah. You want to move
So
somewhere, yeah.
so yeah, so that was basically my plan, and thankfully something came through. It was in the middle of COVID as well, so I was like, timing just couldn't have been worse because nobody knew what was happening. But yeah, thankfully made it out through that. Thank God. But
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose it was difficult because I also had to brace myself for like what if nobody comes forward, like absolutely no one. And suddenly me getting that one appearance for Ulster, that was probably what saved me. So again, just how grateful I am for that. But yeah, I suppose like it made me think, and I had to go searching around and took on a manual labour job for a little while, which was challenging as well. Like the days would consist of like getting up at 4 in the morning, because I still wanted to do my gym goals and my rugby goals. So I'd get up at 4 and I'd go down to like a little gym, rep that out for 45 minutes to an hour, come back, eat my breakfast, leave about 5:30, and then I'd go somewhere. I don't actually know where it was, but it was like south in Northern Ireland. I don't know where it was, but it was wild. Like the car journey itself was about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think I
So
read it was South Down or something like that. You did a bit of
yeah, it
did a
might
bit
have
of
been.
work for
I'm not
six
really too sure,
months.
but
Mm.
it was mental. So then do that. I'd work from like 7 o'clock until maybe 3:30 or so. Um, do that, and then once I'd finished the shift at 3:30, back up the road to go and train with like Ballymena or any club that would be willing to let me just train with them. So it was really, really difficult. That was a tough period and really made me open my eyes. But you know what? I wouldn't have changed that because it made me really it made me feel like I really had to work for it. Like this is not going to come easy, and I want to be ready the moment someone turns around and says, "Yep, like you could, we'll take you on, sign this contract." I was ready to go. So, yeah, probably got the fittest I've ever been in my life as well in that stage because didn't touch a sip of alcohol as well the whole time. So yeah, it's good.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like sort of before during school, it was like obviously you're always working hard. You're always working hard as a young rugby player trying to make your dream come true. But it sort of seems like it was all going one direction, and you
Mm,
just sort of had this stop, and then you
yeah.
sort of had to like reevaluate it and sort of go again, sort of evaluate how you're doing things, and like really be proactive. And I think, would you say that sort of added a different dimension to your game alongside, I guess, sort of the natural ability that you'd have, just sort of that grit that you sort of learned in that
Mm.
period?
I think so. Yeah, like the grit is probably the word I'd use the most. Like that is definitely what I established, and the resilience that I needed to have to be able to kind of overcome it. It was good and bad for my game too because it made me think more about the game, and I've kind of come to learn that the more I think about the game, the worse I play because I'm not in the flow. I'm not like yeah, I'm just not really thinking. So yeah, that was probably the biggest thing I realized. But then my learning of the game probably really increased as well. Like I was beginning to understand, how to manage games a bit better just from watching it and things like that. So yeah, it was a bit of a blessing and a curse, but it was as a whole, it was good. It was good. It was a really good learning curve for me.
Yeah, that's great. And then you speak about moving over into Edinburgh. Edinburgh, fantastic city, as we all know.
Mm.
Moving into Harriet's right at the city centre. So you played for them for a year, and then obviously you got that partnership
Mm-hmm.
deal with Edinburgh. How did that sort of make you feel after having the sort of setback that you had the previous year?
Yeah, it was pretty wild because basically it come about that I was playing with Harriets, and I think I'd played maybe 4 or 5 games with Harriets, and I'd had a couple. I think I'd had a couple decent performances, but I remember the game before my first time being asked to come into Edinburgh, I'd hit a drop goal against Watsonians, which are another Edinburgh team. And I remember coming into the changing room after this had happened, and I had a message from someone who I didn't know. Anyway, I clicked on it, and whenever you get a message from someone on WhatsApp, it'll say like who the name is. So I clicked on it, and I was like, "Who's this?" And it said Mike Blair, and Mike Blair is obviously a Scottish rugby legend, like really big name. So anyhow, I got this message from him. I just said, "Look, we've been watching you and how you've been playing. We've been really impressed. Would you like to come in and just train with us? Do the skills session with us on Monday?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So basically went in, and whenever people ask me about Edinburgh, I'll usually say that I was with Edinburgh Rugby for 2 years. That first year is usually it was like a training type year for me. Like I wasn't involved. I was never going to be involved, but I was paid to basically train with them, which was great. Whilst still playing alongside Harriets, which was fantastic too. And then yeah, it was kind of just right at the end of that first kind of training year that again, it was Mike Blair. I just said to him, we were having such a casual conversation. Like, I think we were just sitting talking about rugby. And he just turned around and he was just like, yeah, I'll just get your contract through to you later. And huh? I was like, what are you talking about? And yeah, we've got your partnership contract. I was like, whoa, like, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, well, I mean, I assume this is something you want to do. And I was like, yeah, we hadn't really spoken about this like a whole lot. Like there'd been
Yeah.
a couple of conversations, but the fact that he just dropped it in was just like, yeah, we've got your contract. I was like, what is going on? So obviously that was a big moment, and it was pretty amazing feeling to be like, right, okay, I'm back in it. Like I'm back in the kind of professional grid now. Yeah, great. I've kind of got a foothold. So yeah.
Yeah. was a big moment. And then you'd sort of play a couple of games for Edinburgh A that season. How did you find sort of, I guess, that sort of period? Obviously gone from training with professionals at the same level at Ulster. How did you sort of compare that experience to the rugby in Scotland and training with those Edinburgh boys and playing with some of those Edinburgh boys for the A team?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was during my time in Scotland and during my time in Edinburgh. Like if I could say which team I enjoyed like much more, it would hands down be Edinburgh, just because I think it's the style of rugby they play as well. Like Mike at the time was trying to give us like a real like run type play, if that makes sense. Like just everything was about running, like, and it was even if you were going to kick, it was like you got to think about running first. So it just opened my eyes. And I think like the people that I met in Edinburgh was unbelievable. Like I was, at the time, Blair Kinghorn, he was playing 10. I mean, I was learning directly off him, and some of the things that he was telling me, I was like unbelievable. And he is probably someone who's had a huge impact on my career without him probably knowing. Is just his demeanor and the way he is around the boys. I've never met someone who is more relaxed in all my life. Like he's just like he'll just be around like shrugging his shoulders, kind of a little bit like Finn Russell.
Yeah.
Shrugging away,
He
whatever.
gives off that he gives off that energy for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And he's just so relaxed, and he's just like he's dancing around all the time and all this. But just whenever he was on the pitch, he was still so relaxed. But the advice and stuff that he was giving me was just unbelievable, and things I hadn't even thought of before. So that was great, really good. Yeah, I'd say I'd say that's probably the big comparison is that I felt like the players at Edinburgh were a lot more like open to me. Like I felt like they embraced me a bit more. I felt like maybe at Ulster it was maybe because at the time the guys were a little bit older and I was very young. I just felt like I didn't really get that warmth feeling at the time. So
Do you
um,
remember anything that Blair would have said to you that you've sort of took on into your career nowadays?
yeah, the big one was always like he always made like line breaks at training. I said to him after training one day, I was like, "Man, like you're doing this for fun. Like, what are you doing?" And he said, "Are you looking at who I'm like going after in like the defensive line?" And I was like, "Not really." He says, "There's your first issue." He was like, "I am only looking for the guys who are like, like big, like the props." He was like, "Go after them. Just find them. Like it doesn't matter where. Like just go after them." And I was like, "That is so simple, but it's so true." I was like, "Why in the whole how many years have I been playing professionally? Maybe like 3 or 4 years. Like how have I not thought to go after the guys who are heavier?" So that was just like one example of something that he said. But it was great though because we were able to both pick each other's brains. So like he at that time he probably wasn't as good a goal kicker, and I think that was probably my biggest strength. So like, we would talk a lot about goal kicking as well, and that was great. And I don't know if this is a thing I want to maybe rave about, but he was constant. He wasn't constantly, but he was changing his tee a couple of times, and I suggested to him one day. It's hard to explain. So basically, if the grass is like really flat, and say for example it's like Astro, a lot of kickers will get the tee and they'll like dig into the ground, so your tee's able to sit up like this, meaning the ball will sit nicer. And I said to him one day, I said, "Well, I'll show you a little trick how to get around it." I said, get a little like stone and put it at the front and then tape it to the front of the tee, so then the tee's naturally sitting up."
Oh wow.
And he says, "Yeah, great. No, class." And he basically went and he did that, and he then went off to play for Scotland. And he was playing for Scotland in autumn internationals, and he was playing at 10 against Australia. And he had a kick for the match, and unfortunately missed it. And I just remember seeing a clip of him picking up the tee afterwards, and on the tee was the stone and the tape, and I was like, "Oh no!" I was
Oh,
like, "This is dreadful." So
Well,
So yeah,
We'll not blame it on the media. We'll just blame it on the just poor accuracy from
yeah,
Blair. I don't
Bruce,
think.
Bruce, you
Yeah.
are the reason that Scotland lost to Australia. But honestly, I couldn't speak higher of Blair. He is like probably, yeah, as I say, he has probably had such a huge influence in my career. Yeah, really, really good guy.
Well, that sounds like a great experience, I suppose, in terms of moving off from Belfast, from Ulster, and then moving in to Edinburgh and sort of developing a professional, learning those little nuggets of information from the other pros, and
Yeah,
then sort of moving down after that to sort of had a bit of a sort of a whirlwind that sort of period where you sort of moved down to Ealing
yeah,
Trailfinders in the championship for a wee while, and then eventually down to the Cornish Pirates. And I sort of read that you're living out of a suitcase more or less during that period. How was that sort of period for you in between sort of Edinburgh and the Pirates?
yeah. Again, very, very similar kind of period to like that time whenever I was leaving Ulster. It was the unknown. I was like, what is going to happen? I had no idea. And then obviously it was the exact same in Edinburgh. And now it was a little bit clearer for me because at the time I had a really good coaching job. One of the guys I played with at Harriet, a guy called Stuart Edwards, someone else who's had an enormous impact in my life. He turned around to me and he said, "Well, look, like you know that you can always stay here. You can go whenever you want. Like, honestly, man, I'm so easy with it." And I just thought this guy is unbelievable. Like, so good for me. And basically, I was kind of just training away, and I decided to keep playing with Harriet in the Super Six competition at the time, now the Scottish Premiership. And I just decided to keep sticking away. You know, stay in Edinburgh, whatever. And you know that those kind of how long would it have been? 2 months maybe in Edinburgh. I'd say that was up there with one of the best, like just 2 months of my life. Like just because I felt like I had so much freedom. Like there was no pressure of like you obviously there's always pressure to perform, but it didn't feel as large. It was like you're just playing club rugby, go and enjoy it. And it was great. I was doing that. I was able to like see friends on weekends and see friends even through the week as well, which was so nice. Like, so yeah, and I was doing all this while still coaching at the school that I was coaching at. So it was, it was, it was obviously very stressful because I wanted to keep playing professionally, but it was also such an amazing period because I had so much fun in that period too. Like just yeah, being able to really spend time with friends and yeah, it was super. Yeah, weirdly a good time when it probably shouldn't have been a good time.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess it's sort of freedom, and then you've got like you can do whatever
yeah,
you want and sort of build that other sort of a income stream as well. Because when you're living
totally.
over in the UK, and having to move up and down, you need,
Yeah,
yeah. And then you
totally.
moved down to the Cornish Pirates, starting it was 2023, wasn't it?
I
2023,
think so.
24
Yeah.
was the first season. So you moved down there, and you've been there for 2 years now, and you've had a really impressive period. Playing 46 games in the English Premiership, which is a very good division. 277 points as well. From what you've seen across your whole career, your most prosperous period in terms of
Mm.
playing stuff like that. What do you think's sort of been the key to your sort of development and moving down there and sort of development as a player and as a key player for the Cornish Pirates?
Yeah, I think it probably comes down to that kind of like the relaxing type stuff that I said. So something I probably should have said in the last bit about the that time that I wasn't playing was that I was I was beginning to my performances were really beginning to pick up during that period before when I didn't really have the pressure, and that was my mindset whenever I went down to Cornish Pirates. I was like, you know what, like I've gone and performed well when the pressure's been off me. I'm just it was almost like pretend there was no pressure. It was like right, who cares? Like just keep shrugging your shoulders, like if you mess something up, you mess it up. You'll learn from it, quick reflect, and away you go again. So I think that was really my kind of attitude the whole time. Yeah, it was just try and keep it relaxed as possible. But the environment at Cornish Pirates really helped that because it was so relaxed and it was so chilled out. Um, yeah, and I think that's where the credit to the coaches really has to come to.
Yeah, you
As
spoke about
any,
Gavin Cattle, wasn't it? One of the coaches at Morris Paris. He's helped you
yeah,
out quite a lot. What sort of things did he sort of teach you that helped you?
yeah, I think the way Gav helped me was it was very much to do. Like, we would speak about like this is gonna sound weird, but like people a lot, like behaviors and people, and that was probably something that I didn't really think about before, and it's probably something that I really think about a lot now. So like just being able to understand people and being able to understand how they operate, and maybe things that they're good at, things they're not good at. um, and yeah, I don't know. I think that was probably the biggest thing that he helped me with. He also helped me out a lot of things about you know how to maybe take the better option a couple more times, and he challenged me in really like subtle ways, like because he'd never come up to you and be like, oh, like I think you can do this better, I think you can do that better. It would always be just like little casual conversations we'd have. But he was honestly he was so good to me, and he pretty much gave me the keys for those 2 years, which I'm so thankful for. It was after my debut at Caldy, and I'd kind of known that there's a 10 there already who was relatively well liked, especially by all the boys, and I was a bit like, this is gonna be tough. And I thought he played pretty well actually, prior to me kind of getting my debut, and I was like, this is gonna be tough. But then after my debut at Caldy, I was just, as I said, I was just kind of given the keys, and that was pretty much that. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's more like I guess you're sort of growing on that period from the Harriets where
Mm.
you're not really thinking too much, and that's such an interesting thing because you sort of from the outside looking in, you sort of see the amount of like detail that goes into professional rugby nowadays with sports science and all this other stuff.
Mm.
So to sort of close your mind off, like do
Yeah.
you ever find you struggle doing that, or was it just sort of like I've had these difficult experiences, I know what sort of player I am, I know what sort of drives me to do the best that I can do, I
Mm.
know what mindset I need to be in. Did that help you,
Yeah,
or
I
did you
think
ever
so.
find
I
it
think so.
difficult?
It was kind of. I think it was just probably more like an internal thing. So like my whole thing was like when I reflect on Ulster, when I reflect a little bit on Edinburgh, like the common theme with me was that I wasn't confident enough. I didn't back myself, and especially at Ulster, and that is probably a regret I'll have for quite a while. But you know, it was yeah, I think that was probably my biggest realization was like, right, I got to back myself. And like, even if I mess something up, it was like, you know what, like, who cares? Like, I'm gonna have another opportunity. Just make sure that that goes all right. And if it doesn't, well, then you're just having a bad day at the office. And I think that was like the whole kind of attitude. Um, yeah, yeah, I think that was probably it.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And you speak about sort of learning more about people, and that's not really something that's not actually something you'd really think of when you're thinking of
Mm.
professional athletes and what they're sort of trying to work on in their game. But knowing people, was there anything in particular as a 10, as the sort of the driver of the team that you sort of learn about the boys around you that you could maybe sort of encourage them with, or
Mm-hmm.
sort of motivate them with? Did you learn
100%.
anything? Yeah.
Like I think this is probably something that is probably one of my biggest strengths in just in rugby, and just I think maybe as a person as well. It's just like I think my encouragement is massive. So like at the start of Cornish Pirates I was relatively shy, not relatively shy, but I wasn't as maybe confident as what I was when I finished. And it took me probably a couple of weeks to really like I'm gonna say study these people, but it was just more observe them. And it was kind of like, right, okay, what ticks for them? So like I'd noticed that, say for example, there was a guy at Cornish Pirates called Will Gibson, Gibbo. And for example, I would notice him a lot. We would, what you see often in rugby nowadays, like you'll see like a pod of forwards, and the middle guy will catch it, and he'll like pass behind, like
Hmm.
usually a 10 or a back.
Yeah.
It was a skill that we practiced a lot. And I noticed that like if he threw a per one, his attitude was very much kind of whatever. And you'd see his chest, you see his like shoulders go down. So I was like, man, like it's cool. Like who cares? Literally, I guarantee you'll go and nail the next one. Like, and you just speak openly like that. And I just know that was just like one example of like how understanding the people you're around is really important, because Gibbo is no, this I do not take any credit for this whatsoever, but Gibbo has gone on and he's done great things. Like he is a Cornish Pirates legend. It was before I even joined, but he is an amazing person, and yeah, I think that kind of behaviour can be quite like infectious within squads. So whenever you really like get around each other, now I'm not ever gonna be like the English, for example, and go and whoop and holler and boys. I'm not that person, but I'm just all about like let's keep the energy high, and I think that was one of my biggest learning at Pirates in terms of like people and stuff. So.
Well, you always come across, even in this interview, you come across as quite like sort of like very humble, very sort of laid back. Do you think that sort of that laid back nature sort of helps you, I guess, with those people skills? And how do you deal with someone who's maybe different than like Gibbo, and maybe needs a little bit of a different sort of a different sort of way of motivating? Is
Yeah,
it sort of something that comes naturally to you, or is there certain types of people where you sort of have to sort of study probably a wee bit more than that? And well,
yeah, it's difficult because those people who are a little bit more like you can sometimes, I'm sure like you can feel it with someone, like they're straight faced before like you even like say something. It's like, right, okay, relax, and it sometimes it is like that. You just have to be really honest with them and be like, bro, like just relax, like it's okay, and you almost like take the mickey out of them, and by almost doing that, it kind of like brings them out. Like that's something that I've noticed anyway. But yeah, it's difficult because I think you also have to see whenever they do something well is like how are other people reacting around them, and if people around them are, if they're encouraging him in a certain way, then that's a great way. Like just copy them basically, or if like you see that someone reacts poorly, then yeah, it's just about kind of sticking your arm around them. So like, I won't say who he is, but there's a player here in France who, he's been a little bit like that. He makes quite a few errors, but it's like you can tell he's quite like straight about it, like quite straight faced. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, bro, like it's cool. Like just relax. Like you're gonna get the next one. Like it's cool. So yeah, I suppose is that being laid back? Yeah, I suppose it is, and yeah, that's probably just skills I've learned. Probably comes back to Blair, being laid back and
being
just kind
laid
of
back,
yeah,
yeah.
probably just try and do what he does. So yeah,
Yeah, and obviously now you speak about France, and you've moved on. France's last month has been a bit of a whirlwind for you, to say the least.
yeah,
Sort of signing for Bourg-en-Bresse.
perfect,
Bourg-en.
nailed it.
There we go. I knew I'd get it. So signing for them, and um, then getting called up to Zimbabwe for
Mm,
the African Rugby Cup.
yeah, that's right.
Walk us through that, because I know
Yeah.
when I seen it on your Instagram, I was like, is that Zimbabwe? I thought he's from
it's
Randallstown. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. Like, so I always knew I was qualified to play for Zimbabwe, and I joked about it for years and years and years and years. Like, you ask anyone from Ballymena Academy who I went to school with, and they would all say, "Yeah, he used to like wind us all up. Oh, I'm going to go play for Zimbabwe." Did I ever think that would happen? Absolutely not. And yeah, basically, I was out for a couple of drinks when I met Matthew McNabb, and he turned around to, I said to him jokingly, obviously after a couple of drinks, I was like, oh Macca, I'm actually qualified to play for Zimbabwe, because I knew he'd played for them before, and he turned around and said, yeah, good one, and I was like, no man, I'm actually being serious. So anyway, that was fine. And he said, "Well, I'll go and give you the coach's number if you want." And I was like, "Man, that'd be great." And again, I was kind of a bit like, "Ooh, do I want to do this? Like, I'm not sure." And anyways, he reached out to me and he said that he was really really keen, like really keen. And I was kind of like, okay, this is definitely something to think about. And he kept in touch with me, and this was probably from about January, February this year. I kept in touch with me. He was just always messaging. He's always just like, how are things, whatever. And he was really, really good to me. And anyways, just before I went out to France, he had gone, and I didn't know this, but he'd sent an email to Bourg-en-Bresse, and he had said, "Look, we were now formally requesting for Bruce to come out and play for us in the Rugby Africa Cup." And it was on day one. I finished the day in France, whatever. I was very nervous, and then the head coach Richard comes up to me. He's like, "Bruce, come with me to my office." And I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "What have I done here?" He's like, "I received this email to play for Zimbabwe," and I said, "Yes. Look, I'm not going to accept it. I don't think I should. I think I should stay in France and get to know everyone." Blah blah. So that was fine. And he finished the meeting and said, "Look, if you want to go, you go anytime. No problem by me. No problem at all." And I thought, that's really decent of you to do that. And anyways, then as that first week kind of went on, I was it just kind of kept crossing my head, and I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was just like being out in the sun all the time. I don't know. But basically went, and by the kind of Thursday, Friday, I'd kind of thought in my head, and I'd spoken to my mum so much about it, and my girlfriend Gabby, just kept going back and forward. I was like, do I do this? And then it just got to the point. I was like, you know what? This opportunity may not ever come about ever again. And the other thing as well was like, if I, God forbid, I got a really bad injury, and, I've got that on my CV, which I think would be really helpful for jobs in the future too. So yeah, and then we just all kind of agreed. We were just like, do it, just go and do it. So, anyways, I went back to Richard and I just said, "Look, I'm going to do this. Is this okay?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." Now, it took a couple of days to clear, but eventually we got there. On the Tuesday, it got cleared of the following week. And I rang up the Zimbabwe manager and I was like, "Look, I'm going to do it. How quickly can you get me out?" And he says, "I've just booked you on a flight for tomorrow." And I was like, "Wow, right, okay." So and that was then. There was all the stresses of obviously being Africa's got a lot of deadly diseases. So I was rushing around, phoning all these doctors in France, not being able to speak any French to them, obviously. Being like, I need a yellow fever jab. I need malaria pills. I need all this stuff, and I still have to take malaria pills at the minute because you have to take them after your trip. But so scrambling about. Eventually, Zimbabwe sorted me out with a doctor in Geneva. So I was driving around in Geneva, like, what am I doing? Anyway, go to this random hospital. The lady, she was very nice, and she was just like, "You want jab?" And I was like, "Yeah." So she came in, arm up, jab, done. And I was like, "Right, okay, that's that." So anyway, from the hospital straight to the airport, Geneva to Ethiopia to Entebbe, and that was a bit of a roller coaster.
Uganda, wasn't it? Entebbe, that's Uganda.
Yeah, that's right. So flew to Ethiopia first, and then to Uganda after. So crazy.
Yeah. And about that, so you joined up. I think you joined the squad. They were at the semi-final stage, wasn't it? It was,
that's right.
Kenya, and then you were on the bench for that game. Didn't get on, but then you obviously made it to the final against Namibia. And now anyone that rugby knows that Namibia is a very very good African rugby nation, and they're big rivals to Zimbabwe as well. So that. talk us through that sort of that finals day of the Rugby Africa Cup, and with the Rugby World Cup qualification on the line, a trophy on the line, and the prospect of your international debut as well.
Yeah, it was wild because I suppose my first thought was my expectations were low going into that game. So like, he didn't put me on the semi-final. Why is he going to put me on the final? The squad was settled as well, so there's no need to be completely honest. But he did in the end, which is amazing. But it was I think the bit that I was so amazed at was like the belief in everyone was just like unbelievable. Like if the boys would go and talk about, say for example, they go and talk about like, oh well, we could if we win, like I am not joking you. There was a coach that did it in a team meeting, and the captain stood up and he was like, I noticed that you said if, no ifs, it's when, and I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, that's quite powerful. So yeah, that was basically that. And then, yeah, I suppose going into the game, like, I think my overriding feeling the whole time I was out in Uganda was I was very, very emotional the whole time, like very, very emotional because obviously I never would have been able to get any of the Zimbabwe stuff without my papa, and my papa's not with us any longer, but he whenever I went and I was thinking about it, I was like, geez, like I would do anything for Papa to see this. And probably the most heartbreaking bit was like after the game, I'd went and like I wasn't able to get any data out there because it would cost an absolute fortune if it was to. And I was like scrambling trying to get Wi-Fi or whatever. And one of the boys said, "Here, like take my mobile data. Like, where you go, give me a hotspot." Went and called my mum after the game, and gee, well, she just went and just burst into tears, and she was talking about Papa the whole time. And I was like, oh, like yeah, I was bloody, in going into the games, like on the bus, and like tears coming down my eyes. It was just awful, but it was it was really cool, unbelievable experience. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever manage? You haven't got managed to get over to Zimbabwe, have you? Since
No, no,
that'll be your
I'm
next
not.
trip, I'm sure. I'm sure that'll
Yeah,
be your next
yeah,
trip.
and I'm honestly, I'm not proud of that at all because like a few boys did ask me that, and they were like, "Oh, have you been to Zimbabwe?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I haven't." And I was like, "Oh, this is not a good look." Like, I didn't want it. I didn't want it to be like I've just jumped on, like because I can, because that's not what it was. I probably could have had the option of not playing in this like little this little period, and instead, maybe trying to pick up with Zimbabwe after they qualify and whatever. But I didn't want that to tarnish my reputation within Zimbabwe. I didn't want them to think, oh, well, he's just a glory hunter. He's just coming in whenever we do well. So
Yeah.
I was very conscious of that. So yeah.
Yeah. And you speak about that special bond that you have with it. Is that something that you had sort of shared with any of the guys there, and sort of how what was the team sort of like, and how was that welcome for you when you came in and sort of telling, I guess you're telling your story and sort of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't really share like in detail like with many of the boys, just purely because they didn't ask about it. And to be honest, with the way I was and how emotional I was, it's probably a good thing because I probably just would have probably cried in front of all of them. But no, the head coach, whenever he presented the jersey, he did mention, he said, "Look, we're aware of your heritage and your mum being born out there and because of your papa, whatever." So that was a lovely touch. But yeah, and then in terms of the boys, like they're very warm, very friendly. The moment I'd kind of arrived, my roommate, who was actually the captain, he came down and he was like immediately greeting me. He was like, you okay? Do you need anything from me? And I was like, geez, I don't even know this guy, and he's like doing this. So that was really nice. And then as I was kind of like going around, I would go and I'd meet everyone. And everyone was just so warm. You got that, I was saying about straight faced earlier. Like very, very few boys in that team were like straight faced. Very warm. You felt it. But again, that's down to the environment and how it's created. And yeah, it was amazing. Like the togetherness, like the amount of singing they do is unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
they sing after everything. One of the boys would start like whistling, and then like everyone else would just start like. I'm like, what is going on here? So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you'll have to brush up on your singing, your singing skills
Yeah,
for the Rugby World Cup then, because you'll be doing a brave lot of that, I would imagine.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How
So
did you sort of speak of that culmination of it was really like it feels emotional like hearing you speak about that moment where you just win the Rugby Africa Cup, you qualify for the Rugby World Cup,
yeah,
and just like the culmination of all your career ambitions, being able to play, in a Rugby World Cup, as well
yeah,
as sort of getting in touch with your roots as well, and your grandfather who means so much to you, and your mum who means so much to you, and sort of having that moment with your mum immediately after the game.
yeah.
Sort of how was that sort of that culmination of all your career ambitions, and as well as with your family as well, and sort of
Yeah.
getting in touch. Just describe that moment. Just
Oh, honestly, it was crazy. But like, I knew we'd achieved something huge. Like, I like massive. Like as a collective first. I'd known that we did because the way the boys were reacting was like, and I mean, I'll talk about the team first, and then I'll talk about me. But like that was so huge in terms of those boys. So like a lot of the boys in that team, they're not professional rugby players. They're just part-time rugby players. They'll go and play with someone local in Zimbabwe, and just go from there. Like, and that's them. But the fact that so many players have done that, and they're going to a Rugby World Cup in 2027, like that changes their lives. Like for a start, which is unbelievable. Absolutely crazy. Um, and you could see it. They're so emotional after the game, and you could, yeah, you really felt that. For for me, like it was, yeah. I mean, I was. It's if you want me to be honest, it actually still hasn't hit me properly. I think whenever I was like coming back on the plane from Entebbe to Istanbul, I was just thinking. I couldn't stop looking at all the pictures from my phone from that trip because I was like, this is like unbelievable, like trip of a lifetime. Um, and yeah, I suppose it's hard to put into words because I was just so shell shocked at it happening, and yeah, I don't know, I just probably felt so grateful to be there, and yeah, I think seeing mum was really really hard. Yeah, like I genuinely. I know I said I'd be emotional, but that at that point I full on like burst out laughing, crying. So yeah, that was tough. But nah, it's so hard to put into words. It was just like such a buzz, such a feeling, and like yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And it seems like it's such a good story, I think, and this is why I wanted to sort of say to do it, because been such a sort of like a whirlwind career for you. You've sort of at Ulster, it doesn't work out. You moved to Edinburgh, then have moved down to Cornish Pirates. You've had a lot of successes, but you also have a lot of disappointments. And
Mm.
to think that your mum pushing you onto that rugby pitch at Randallstown at Edge, or whatever,
Mental,
whatever Edge,
absolutely
to
crazy.
qualifying for a Rugby World Cup. I mean that's just a great story right there.
Yeah.
In terms of looking forward to that Rugby World Cup in 2027. A little bit, what sort of, how are you feeling like sort of going towards that, and how especially going to Australia after the Lions tour's been there this summer?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about looking forward to doing that?
Yeah, pretty crazy. Like I my phone went absolutely mental after we'd qualified, and I'm still getting quite a lot of messages now, just because I think some people they just I don't know they just haven't actually realised, and they've been like
Yeah,
they're kind of like whoa, like you're actually going to a Rugby World Cup. But it was I think it hit me a bit more when I was home last week because my granny like oh my, like any person she'd know, and if I was with her, she'd go and tell them about it. And then
Mm.
they would go and say like, oh, like, you know, we must go to Australia. And then the amount of people who've kind of come up and been like, oh, like, you know, I'd absolutely go to Australia to see you play. You know, that is probably the bit that has struck me the most. And I've kind of been a bit like, oh, right, okay, you know, we're talking about Australia. And obviously time will tell if they actually do. But that, especially from back home, like the actual like the heartfelt type responses has been, yeah, exceptional. Um, so yeah, and then in terms of like me and what I thought, like my immediate thought actually, whenever you know we'd done that was, I was really ill in Uganda. So I have a gluten free, you know, I'm gluten intolerant, whatever, and they just didn't understand it at all. So I was so ill. I was on a drip for the first like 2 3 days of the like leading into the final. So that was terrible for a start. And anyways, so basically went and my first thought after qualifying was, wow, I bloody hope that Australia has got better gluten free foods that week because yeah, I don't know if I could do with losing as much weight as I had that week. I think I'd ended up losing 8 kilos within a week, so yeah, not good.
That's like you've done a Hugo Keenan number, but like times that
Li-
by whatever. Like
I
honestly,
know,
yeah.
I know, and oh yeah, it was just wild. Like yeah, but would I do it again? Would I be that sick to go and qualify for a Rugby World Cup? I absolutely would. So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah. That's great. And looking forward to that sort of Rugby World Cup and the potential, like the occasion that it'll be in Australia, especially the Lions being there this summer.
Mm.
It'll be a massive occasion in Australia. Um, is there? I've got a wee question here, a wee fun question. What would be like three as a fly half yourself? What would be three fly halves that you'd like to go up against the most in
Oh
a World Cup?
well, number one has got to be Bowden Barrett. Oh man, he's like my hero. He's so cool. Next, oh, probably Romain Ntamack.
Oh wow,
Just
yeah,
just
that'll
because
be.
I just think he's so cool, man. Like like people. I
He's
hope
like a
people
model.
understand
Like
what
he's
I
not
mean.
even like he's like a rugby. How does it? How can I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know how you can play rugby in France and be
yeah.
that good looking. To be honest, too.
um,
Yeah.
so yeah, he'd be another. And then who would the third one be? Probably someone like Finn Russell. That'd be pretty cool. But then I think like if it was to happen, I think it'd be really. This is away from the tens, but I think it'd be really cool to play against guys that I've played either with or against. You know, within those within Ireland or within Scotland when I was there. So I think that would be quite a cool feeling too. So, but yeah, I'd say those are probably my main three.
Come up against Blair.
Yeah, that'd be crazy, yeah.
See if he's still you can holler at him when he's doing a kick. Chuck a couple
Yeah.
of stones there,
First,
tie that onto the front of your kicking tee.
first thing
Get
I'll
his
ask
hair.
is that you still got that little rock below your teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think it'll be one sort of way Zimbabwe have qualified. It'll be one tier one nation, won't it? It'll be in your group at least, won't it?
I think so, yeah. So
Yeah.
someone now I don't know if this is true or not, but one of the coaches actually said to us afterwards that it's confirmation or it's pretty much confirmed that in our group it'll either be Ireland, South Africa, or the All Blacks, or potentially two. So yeah, I think the possibility of playing against any of them anyway would be pretty pretty sick.
That would be unreal. Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's fun. Like that's the three you want probably.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Outside of France, really. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. Well, talking about France, obviously you made that move. Sort of finish on that, I suppose. You sort of spoke after sort of moving on from Cornish Pirates to your ambitions to
Mm.
play in France. What sort of at the age of 25, sort of coming into, I guess, in the next couple of years, coming into your sort of your, I guess, your peak years, what would
Mm-hmm.
be. What's your sort of ambitions with your move to France and sort of further in your career? And I guess you'll be sort of developing on your international experience as well in
Yeah,
that period. So what's your sort of
yeah.
ambition for that move?
I think I think it's probably to just enhance me as a player. Well, first things first, I want to learn some more French. That is definitely the first thing I want to try and get out of this experience. But definitely the next one is just enhancing me as a player. I think if you watch how the French play, it's like, in my opinion, it's just so much better than any rugby that goes on, really outside of Europe, or anywhere else in Europe. It's exciting. It's like, it just looks more fun to be involved in. It's, from what I hear, it's a lot more physical. I mean, it looks more physical. So that'll be interesting too. And I think I just wanted to really experience like a fully different culture. And I think being within the northern, not northern hemisphere, but within like the UK in particular, like, it's very structured. So it's very much like, do this, and then we'll do that. Or if this happens, do that. Whereas I feel like in France, it's very much kind of like, players in front of you, like, and it's kind of like, even if it's like, even if it's a scenario that might not be on, or it's like, those kind of like, oh, I don't know, is that on, like, the French just do it anyway, like, they don't care.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of experience I want to see, like. And even if I come away from France, after this period, and say I haven't really learned a lot or whatever, this was my motivation, is that I think whenever I retire from rugby, if I'd had 2 or 3 opportunities to go play professional rugby in France and I didn't take it, I think I would kick myself for a really, really long time. So I think it's just more the experience is what I'm kind of after, and what I'm trying to get. So yeah.
I suppose that works with your whole mentality about how playing when you're not really
Mm.
overthinking, when you're not
Mm.
overthinking, it
Mm.
sort of suits your game. Would you say that's sort of also a sort of factor in terms of moving on?
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. I can kind of tell, like, even from training, like, you can't, you got to be in the moment. Like, you don't really have time to think. Now, it's a different style of thinking for me, because I have to think about what I'm going to say and then say it in French, which is, yeah, it's really challenging. But but yeah, that's like the height of like my thinking, I think, on the pitch. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, moving over there, you've got the sort of, well, you're in the French third division. I
Mm.
presume the team will probably have ambitions of moving up to the Pro D2. Is it? Is that
Yeah,
the ambitions this
absolutely.
year?
Absolutely. I mean, the club have made it very clear, to me anyway, that this is what they want. So it's kind of like a 2-year project to get into the Pro D2. I think a lot of clubs will describe it as that, like a project to get in Pro D2. But yeah, they've been very kind of open and honest about it, and just saying about how they need to, just for the club and the history of the club. It is a very historic French team. So
Mm.
so yeah, they're very, very clear that they want to go. So yeah, fingers crossed, I'll be able to be involved in that.
Yeah, well, it's a fantastic league. I mean, my co-host Luke, who's on this podcast, that's his favorite rugby division, because I think it's just absolutely crazy. You talk about playing in front of you. That is literally the definition
Yeah,
of playing in front of you. See
yeah,
some of the clips from that league.
yeah,
That's great. Well, maybe just finish on a bit of, I guess, a bit of Lions chat as well, if you have a bit of time. What
yeah,
did you
yeah,
make?
yeah.
What did you make
Being,
of the series this summer?
what's that?
What did you make of the series this summer? What your
Well,
thoughts
in
on
complete honesty, I didn't watch a lot of it. Too busy watching all the African games.
it?
But it was, it looked good. I was kind of a bit worried for Australia after the first game. I was a bit like, oi, like, they're in for a really tough run. But then when I watched the first like 15, 20 minutes of the third test there a couple of days ago, I was like, right, there is no way Australia's losing this game. Like I've never seen a team as fired up as what they were. Like they were ferocious with everything.
Yeah.
Like Will
Hmm.
Skelton in particular, he was just whacking everything in front of him.
Yeah.
So
You'll be
yeah,
wanting to come up
that.
against him someday, I'm sure.
Oh
Probably not
yeah,
get whacked by him though. That looks quite painful.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely gonna
Yeah.
run straight at him.
That's not one of
Yeah.
those. That's not one of those big forwards you want to run at, to be honest. Or
Yeah,
I'd say
absolutely.
uh,
That's the
maybe don't
Blair's
take
advice.
Blair's
Like run
advice on
forward
that one.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I will. I think it was just. I'm not sure what you thought, sort of from a professional angle, but it looked like from me, it is that first test. They sort of it was a very poor performance, and then they sort of built on it in the second
Yeah.
test. Played well for probably about 50 minutes, and then sort of tailored off. And they played really really expansive, good rugby. But I think that
Mm.
third test match. I'm not sure what you think, but it was like that was a test match performance rather than just like a blitz performance like it was in the second test. I think that was probably the real difference.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. 100%. Like I knew they would, as with most rugby teams, it always kind of takes them a little bit to get going. Like you saw even from their first match like against Argentina. I had a pretty strong feeling that Argentina were going to win that game. Just because like new combinations, new players, plus nerves as well. Like, geez, boys would be absolutely wetting themselves going out there. But
Yeah.
no, it was always going to take a little bit of time. Like even come the first like test match, I knew it still wasn't going to be right. Just naturally, because obviously as a coach, you're going to have to chop and change. You're going to have to give guys opportunities. That'll obviously affect combinations and stuff. So, and like I still don't actually think they got the selections potentially right come the end of the tour. Like obviously Andy Files, obviously he's gonna have a little bit more preference as Irish boys, but yeah, yeah, don't know. It was just
Yeah. Do you
interesting.
think would you have made any changes to sort of the sort of mainstay test team he made?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just probably the one standout, and I know people have been talking about this, and obviously hindsight's amazing, but probably it was probably Bundy Aki. Like I
Mm.
think I just felt like to Pelosi. Now I know he had a really bad injury before the tour, but you know, yeah, I was very surprised to not see him involved. In did he have an injury going into the second
I
test?
think he had an injury. I'm not sure. He hadn't. He definitely had a bit of a like I think it was a calf strain or something like that in the
Was that?
second before the second test. That's why he wasn't picked then. But I'm not sure
Yeah.
whether he was still injured for the third
Mm.
test or not, or maybe that was maybe just Farrell going for the same sort of thing that he'd gone for the week before.
Yeah.
I yeah, I tend to
It was
agree
just
with you.
interesting because, like,
Yeah.
as a coach, surely you'd look at it and be like, right, we're pretty dominant in the first test. Like, don't really want to deviate too far away from that.
Yeah.
So that was a big call, like not putting them in. But yeah, I suppose you could say, well, I put Bundy in for the second match and we won that too. So yeah, it's just interesting, very interesting. Like I thought. Sione Tuipulotu, I thought he had been in I thought he was the best centre in the world before he did his injury. So yeah, mental.
Yeah. It was a big call, like it was a big call. Ultimately, I
Mm,
suppose they won the Test series, so
yeah,
can't really have too
yeah,
many complaints, I
absolutely.
suppose.
I mean, they're happy
Yeah.
now, so
Yeah, no, that was great. Well, thank you very much, Bruce, for coming on the Rock and Roll Show and sitting down for an interview with us. And yeah, all the best for everything in France this year and coming, and hopefully you make Prudy to
yeah,
qualification, and looking forward to it and really building towards that Rugby World Cup. So thank you very
yeah.
much.
Fingers crossed. No, thanks so much, Adam. That was great. I really enjoyed that.